Peaceful now. I'd like to talk about the difference between the object of fear and the feeling of fear. It's a very subtle difference, but it is very important. The object or the situation that we feel is causing the fear can be any number of things. It can be millions of different things. It can be people, places, things. But the feeling of fear is deeper and really has nothing to do with the objects of fear. The objects are the way the feeling promotes or propagates itself. It's what the feeling uses to feed and drive itself. But in reality, the feeling is already there in us, waiting for an object to arise, for something to come that makes us identify with it, and then that we start spinning around in the feeling of helplessness at trying to change this thing that is out of our control, that we feel is ruining or coming after us, or it could be literally physically threatening us. Even if something is physically threatening us, the power of how we relate to that feeling is up to us. So I'm going to give you a concrete example of this. Years before I came to Buddhism, I played in a heavy metal band. It was when I was a teenager. And I wound up face to face with a guy with a gun. And I was terrified. But I knew that if I did anything, it would only create more problems. And all I could do was meet his aggression, and my fearlessness diffused it. It allowed him to not feel the need to push his strength further. Now, this happened to me several times, and I had the same experience where I learned that by actually meeting aggression with aggression, it would just complicate things. That I had to meet aggression with presence. And years later, when I learned about Buddhist teachings and heard that teaching, I realized that that was one of the foundational teachings in Buddhism. So I had already had a concrete example of the importance of it. I just didn't understand how to do it in every situation. Those are high tension situations, life or death situations. You pretty much go to your most deep level, and somehow I knew that reacting would be a mistake or a problem. Now, there are times we have to respond and not reacting. And that is one of the hardest things to learn, how to respond and when to respond. Because if we respond from a fearful place, we often will complicate it more. Also, when we are experiencing deep fear and deep uncertainty, when it's tangled with the object or with the situation, there's a spiraling sense of losing control. But when you come back to your feeling, there's a grounding, and you use your breath as an anchor point. The feeling is very fluid, but it's in your body. It is in our body. It is not a fleeting energy. The feeling has concrete, tangible qualities. Usually it will be affecting our breath. Our breath will be very constricted and tight if we're fearful or angry. By becoming aware of your breath, it will naturally slow down. You do not need to try to slow your breath down. It will naturally slow down. You want to just be with it as it is. The more we allow for meeting the fluidity of the feeling, the more we have power of relating to the feeling, and the feeling does not control us. We become the space that the feeling is happening in, which is actually the situation, as opposed to what most of us feel, which is we think something is causing us to feel this way, and then we have to try to change this thing that is out here. And at that point, we are 3 steps away from our real PowerPoint, which is presence in the middle of the storm of our feelings and allowing for the fluidity. So use your breath as the key, and ultimately always ask yourself, who is feeling this? Whose feeling is this? It's the most important question. There is no singular answer. Your mind will set up many answers, but if you keep asking who was I before that? Who am I underneath that? Who am I when that goes away? You will open to wider spaces.